Microplastics are now found in the human brain and arteries. It's not a theory anymore.
It's not a theory at all, Johnny. I mean, and I know microplastics has been talked about a lot, but in particularly about in the environment. And it doesn't take much to really start understanding if it is in our seas and it is in our fish, of course it's going to come into us. And that has now been proven without any doubt. The problem with microplastics, and we see this all the time, don't we, is that it is not just the microplastics on its own. It is the microplastics and the forever chemicals and the mycotoxins and the pesticides and the heavy metals and the volatiles.
It's that total burden, isn't it?
It's the total burden that we're really struggling with, because yes, I mean, you can find a microplastic, and on an average, I mean, I don't think we've ever seen anybody without microplastics in their bloods, as we've never seen anybody without heavy metals, and as we've never seen anybody without PFAS in their bloods. And that is quite frightening, because if you think about it, 150, 200 years ago, nothing was there.
And what do we know about how these chemicals are actually causing health issues?
And it's actually quite unusual, I find, that we still somehow have this question mark as in, why do we see so many more young people with cancer? Why is Alzheimer's becoming such a big problem? And this is not because we're aging. The only thing that really has changed over the 150 years is the environment that we're living in. There's no doubt that we know that environmental toxins cause an inflammatory response within our system. That has been proven without a doubt. Do we know that we find microplastics in the arterial walls, that makes your plug that you might have there a lot more unstable, and therefore you have something like a 43% more increased risk of that plug actually rupturing if there's microplastics in there? That has been proven. Do we know that we have found microplastics up to 5 grams in your brain? That has been proven. I don't think it is difficult to understand this, and that can't be good. Do we have longitudinal studies, double-blind studies on that? No, there's very few actually, because it's going to be very difficult from an ethical point of view to say, let's have a group of people that take a lot of microplastics and then a group of people that we try to stay away from microplastics and look at the different outcomes from a health point of view. Ethically, we can't do that because it is a toxin. And the fact that we call it a toxin actually speaks for itself that it's unhealthy. Are there links with cancer, autoimmune disease, diabetes, cognitive decline? They're empirical links, which means that we have seen those links, but they've not been proven in double-blind studies because, as I just mentioned, we can't really do that. So there's no doubt that there's a significant health impact. Is it purely the microplastics, or is it more the PFAS, or is it more the heavy metals? It is a combination. We have got, and we measure this on a day-to-day basis in our clients, we have got a natural ability to detoxify and to clear out waste. However, the massive overload that we are facing on top of the air pollution, on top of people that smoke or some alcohol or anything else that we're in contact with that is completely unnatural, that overload is our system can't cope with it. So what starts happening? It starts settling within our organs. And that's where the problem comes in.
And from a lifestyle point of view, we know there's clear exposure sources, don't we? We know there's clear ways to help to eliminate some of these toxins. Some are more successful than others, but we often think of it as a bit of a seesaw where it's a balancing act to say, can we influence the total exposure? And if we can, that's going to help to rebalance that seesaw. And can we help to then eliminate, or what we say, rather than eliminate, it's more personalized detoxification, because that's going to be different from one individual to another. And if we can start to improve both of those areas, then we can start to change the dial, can't we, in terms of what that total burden risk is going to be for the individual. In terms of some of those intervention and actions, what are the more effective ways to reduce our exposure and help with elimination?
You need to eliminate as much as possible living in the environment that we're living in. I think we have to accept that we're going to be in contact with those unnatural substances for a very long time to come. And I always find it difficult when I sit in front of a client and we talk about toxins. You almost feel that you're just putting somebody in a straitjacket. I'm not allowed to do this and I'm not allowed to do that, and now I can't breathe and I can't drink water, and that's not what you're trying to achieve. I think there's a difference between having an awareness and making sensible choices and then having a strategy that you say, how do I actually support my detoxification? And that depends partially on your genetics, on whether you're compromised. And anybody can try to somehow avoid the nasties, because it is quietly well known now on where we should be avoiding, or whether we should never put some food in a plastic tub in the microwave. Okay, the shedding of plastic is there without a doubt. Can you always avoid drinking plastic water from a plastic bottle? Okay, when I go into an airport, I probably do buy some plastic, but it is minimizing the impact, because we know that the overload of toxins, which we find in everybody, okay, cause inflammation, and inflammation is a source of all evil, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I mean, of all health problems.